Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of NascardRadio. This is episode 31. I'm your pal Val, and with me is the great Jason. Sir, how are you?
I'm doing well, Val. How are you?
I'm doing great. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. I guess it's good to have the 2020 behind us. But we got a great show today. We're going to talk about recapping the 2020 season, our winners, people who are making some moves at the Cup level, as well as I had a survey out on Twitter and the Nuts Facebook group about the best mid-level Panini product between Chronicles and Prizm, and I was very surprised by the results. We're going to talk about some of the realized prices on eBay for vintage NASCAR trading cards. And then we're going to cap it off with one of our older episodes recapping the 1983 Uno set and the 1985 SportStar Photo-Graphics set that we covered. So, well, let's get into it. Man, what a great ending to the season. I know we haven't recorded in quite a while. I had a lot of crazy things happening, or I should say a lot of really busy stuff, personal life. I know you did as well, Jason. So it's great to be back. I'm super excited for 2021. But the 2020 season, that last race, the championship weekend there in Phoenix. But just to recap, the Arca Menard Series champion for 2020 was Brett Holmes. He's actually in the 2020 Chronicles and 2020 Prizm. And for those who don't remember, the 2019 was Christian Eckes, and 2018 was Sheldon Creed. The Truck Series is, probably more the one people are familiar with. 2020, Sheldon Creed won, and which I just mentioned as the Arca champion, winning the 2020 Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series champion. So he has no cards, which I thought was interesting. But the 2019 Truck Series winner was Matt Crafton, and the 2018 was Brett Moffitt. Moving over to the Xfinity Series, the 2020 champion was Austin Cindric. He's got cards in 2018, and we talked about him. He won quite a few races, I believe, last year. And the 2018 and 19 winner was Tyler Reddick, who we've talked about before. And then in the NASCAR Cup Series, the 2020 champ was Chase Elliott. He's got cards in 2011. And that was an awesome finish to the race. I don't know, Jason, if you got to see it or not.
Yeah, definitely. But, it's one of those things where I remember things for like a day. So
but
it feels like forever ago.
Yeah, and it was. But the thing that sticks out in my mind was Jimmy Johnson and Chase Elliott. I guess it was like a handshake or that kind of thing, and it made me think of kind of the passing of the torch. It was really cool, and to see Bill there and Chase's mom, and you can just kind of see he was the most popular driver in NASCAR Cup Series. And I think we talked about it before. The winner for the last, 20 years or whatever it was, it's either been an Elliott or an Earnhardt. So it's awesome that he had won, and his cards have definitely seen a boost now. So, but the 2019 champ was Kyle Busch, for those who don't remember, and that was his second championship, and 2018 was Joey Logano. So I've definitely seen some of the, we were talking just before coming on about the 2011 Element. That's one of my favorite sets, and for wax as well. And, ran sales for Black Friday. You can get that for different prices. They're $29 a box or $39 a box years ago, but I had bought some, I guess it was over summer $49, but now they're about $75 a box, and that's, for those who remember, you can get that undiscovered element autograph. He's one of those. You can get the blue or the red, numbered to 25. I think the blue is in numbered to 225, and then his base card. So the 2011 element wax has seen a little bit of movement, and it's got that old stock non-gloss. It's kind of a throwback. I guess that's why I liked it so much. But looking ahead to 2021, looking at the Cup Series, the only right now Rookie of the Year candidate is Chase Briscoe. So last year, we had a few rookies going for Rookie of the Year, and so sometimes, you don't get the rookie crop that you get in previous years. But we do have some folks moving around, and for those that either speculate or are looking for somebody to collect or whatever, but folks moving up, folks moving teams. Christopher Bell, he's moving over to the number 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing. He was with Levine Racing, but so he's making a kind of a lateral move, or moving from the satellite team back to the mothership, as you would say. And Alex Bowman, he's moving over to the number 48 car from the 88. He's not necessarily changing teams, but he's changing numbers. Ross Chastain is moving from the Xfinity to the number 42 for Chip Ganassi Racing. He's replacing Kyle Larson, that ride that Matt Kenseth was filling in for. Ty Dillon, he doesn't really have any plans. He's kind of been replaced, or that team kind of folded, that Germain Racing. That is the team that the 23XI Racing team purchased. That's the Denny Hamlin, Michael Jordan team. Eric Jones is moving over to the 43 for Richard Petty Motorsports, which was vacated by Bubba Wallace. And Bubba Wallace is, like we talked about, is over there at the 23XI Racing. Kyle Larson is back from suspension, and he's going to be driving the number 5 for Hendrick Motorsports, and that was formerly the 88 team. For those keeping track, that was kind of disbanded. They had the 88. Hendrick had the 88 really just for Dale Earnhardt Jr., which was kind of interesting because he was in the 8, and I guess when Hendrick signed Dale Earnhardt Jr., they went to the 88. So it was funny because guys had tattoos of 8 on their shoulders and stuff like that, so they just needed to get another 8 added to that tattoo. Yeah. And John Hunter Nemechek, he's moving to the Truck Series. And Daniel Suarez is making a lateral move to the number 99 for Trackhouse. That's a new team. So that's kind of a recap. I know it's a lot. We'll talk about it more when as the season gets going. But here it is, the beginning of January, new year, and all the shops are abuzz to get ready for Daytona, which is the second week in February. Which, side note, I did see that NFL is expanding their season from 16 to 17 games next year. That's going to fall into the Daytona 500 weekend, so it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see what the ratings are. I know that's not something we normally talk about, but, being a wrestling fan, the NFL ratings were always beating wrestling, so I'll be curious to see if, with a big race and with a Week 17 game, Week 17, there's always something on the line, so it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, we don't worry about the 2022 season, but, I'm always curious to see if NASCAR moves that. That schedule won't come out until the fall, I believe, so I'll be curious if they move that around or not. So, and then 2020 drivers that are no longer racing or will not race full time: Clint Boyer, Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, and John Hunter Nemechek, which we talked about, is going to the Truck Series. So, and the reason I mentioned those is that if you're looking at buying cards, you definitely want to buy off cycle. So the Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, these guys are destined for the Hall of Fame. Definitely. There might be some opportunity to pick up some of their cards cheap. So it's all usually about publicity in the spotlight. So, because when Jimmy and Matt Kenseth get to the Hall of Fame, there'll be renewed interest, or you never know when all of a sudden somebody gets hot again, like we were talking about the Tiger Woods. So, and real quick, the 2021 Xfinity Series, there are no Rookie of the Year candidates yet, and in the Camping World Truck Series in 2021, Hailie Deegan and Chris Wright will be contending for Rookie of the Year candidates. So I'm super excited finally to see her in a truck and Ford trucks, and we'll see how she does. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty cool being able to see her on TV on usually Friday nights is when the trucks run. They don't run every weekend, but they run, I think, at least half of the season. I know they have some big breaks in there, but her cars are on fire.
So we talk about her all the time, and, forgive me, I'm not the most up-to-date on, lower-tier drivers, but where does Brittany Zamora fall in accordance with Hailie Deegan? Like, I see a ton. It's like 10-1. I see things about Deegan versus Zamora.
So she's racing lower level. In the ARCA Menards West Series, she only ran one race in 2020. And that was race number 4. She started 12th, finished 13th. That's not necessarily bad. She also raced in the Cars Super Late Model Tour. She ran one of 8 races there. She started 24th and finished 11th. And they list her age as 21, so I'm not super familiar with her, but it could be. I think she has sponsorship problems, and
okay.
So you can be a super talent, but if you don't have the sponsorship for rides, I don't know why this popped in my head, but like even Chase Elliott, when he was in the lower levels, I think maybe Napa was done with Michael Waltrip, or the Michael Waltrip team had folded, and for some reason I remember a story where he said he was sitting on his couch, didn't know what he was going to do, and Napa came calling, and they sponsored him for the Xfinity, and off he's running.
Right.
So not everybody has the big sponsors lined up. I think Hailie has Ford backing her, and so she has that sponsorship there. So I don't think Brittany is, not that she's not a talent or not, but I think to answer your question, she's looking for sponsorship. I think I follow her on Twitter, and I think this is the time between now and Daytona, everybody's courting everybody looking for sponsorship. They're working on the trucks and the cars, hoping that they can get a sponsor to get them to Daytona. Some of the drivers go. I mean, you hear the stories where they go to Daytona without a sponsor, and they only have enough money to get them that one race, and they have to finish well. I think Rick Hendrick tells a story about needing to win, and I think Dale Earnhardt Sr. drove for him one race or whatever, and that they did well, might even won the race to get him the money to continue on with sponsorship. So we'll see if she can get a sponsor for 2021. So. And then recapping, I've talked about it before, jayski.com, Jayski. They have some great information on NASCAR, the different series, the drivers, the driver, and what team they're running for. You can use that information to try to find addresses for the team, so you can send in autographs, stuff like that. So, but they had an article about the 5 highest NASCAR paid drivers for NASCAR, which I thought was interesting. You usually don't see a lot of information about the money. They used to publicize how much each position paid for each race, and then a few years ago they stopped doing that. But Martin Truex. In the number 5 spot, Martin Truex Jr. comes in at $11.5 million. You remember he's running for Joe Gibbs, and he won quite a few races the last couple of years, so as well as the championship. It says all but $1.1 million of his $11.5 came from his salary. So number 4 is Kevin Harvick, combined earnings of $12.2 million. And most of his earnings, $10.9, come from the salary, with the rest coming from licensing and endorsement deals. Number 3, Denny Hamlin, combined $14.6 million, and the $1.5 million he's earned from licensing and endorsement deals comes mostly from Nike Jordan brand. And, I guess he's got some extra cheddar there to help start a team with Bubba Wallace. So, number 2, Jimmy Johnson, $17.6, and number 1 is Kyle Busch at $17.8. So I was surprised Chase Elliott was not on here yet, but I guess his time's coming. And the reason I mention that is, you can kind of see the top 5 drivers that are making the money, as well as, they most likely have a huge fan base. So, again, back to collecting, these are probably some of the guys you might want to look at if you're not collecting some good contenders. So, anybody jump off the list for you?
So the one that stood out for me was Truex, and when it was all but 1.1 of his 11.5 came from his salary. It stood out to me because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but NASCAR is such a sponsored sport that it made me think, well, 90% came from his salary and only 1.1 came from sponsorships. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So that kind of struck me. That's the one that stood out to me.
Well, I think so. When he came to Joe Gibbs, he was with, for the folks that don't remember, he was with Front Row Motorsports, which was a satellite team of Joe Gibbs, and they ended up folding, and he kind of folded into Joe Gibbs. So he had been a champion before that prior year coming over. So I guess he signed a good deal, I guess. But, his sponsorship is Bass Pro Shops, so I'm not sure of any other sponsorship deals, but I definitely see the Kevin Harvick commercials with Busch and I guess it's Mobile One, him and Clint Boyer, so those are always cute. Well, moving on, recapping 2020, we only had a few releases in 2020 with the Donruss. We had Prizm and Chronicles, and then we had National Treasure. Victory Lane was retired, I guess, and Chronicles filled that spot in 2020. So I was curious what the collecting community thought of Chronicles, since it was the first year of Chronicles. And then we had 2020 Prizm, which I think Panini did a really good job with 2020 Prizm, added some extra colors and a lot more rookies than I remember. So I ended up putting out 2 polls, one out on Twitter and one out on Facebook for the Nuts site, and I appreciate everybody who responded to the survey. But the reviews were mixed, and it kind of caught me off guard. So on Twitter, I put the poll out there, and we had 21 votes, and 57% liked 2020 Prizm NASCAR better than Chronicles, which got basically almost 43%. But on Facebook, on the Nuts site, those folks, they're diehard NASCAR folks. It's a great Facebook group, as well as the forum. The forum's not used as much anymore, but everybody's kind of moved over to Facebook. But we got about 46 votes on Facebook, and 37 votes were voted for Chronicles, as opposed to only 9 for Prizm. So it seemed like the newer Twitter environment liked the flashy Prizm, But Chronicles, for the established NASCAR trading card collector, they overwhelmingly chose Chronicles. They said, Chronicles by far, Brian Whitshire said, and then Zach Thurmore said Chronicles choices, not even close. So I was kind of surprised at that. I thought, everybody would like the shiny. So,
I mean, we all know that the history of the sport more than I do, and when we talk about cards, that's where I really jump in. And I've kind of been anxiously awaiting to talk about this because I think it does speak volumes as far as the age groups using the social, which age group is using which social media platform versus which age group is buying which type of card. And, Twitter is definitely a younger crowd, and Facebook seems to cater more towards the older, my age, your age, mid-30s, and I know a lot of the younger people were going away from Facebook and doing all the other stuff. So it definitely speaks volumes to who's using what. And it's almost like the stereotypes are true because I think with the Twitter users, a lot of that age group is I want Prizm everything, and it's the same age group that used to be I love Topps Chrome, so Prizm has definitely taken over the collecting world to a degree, and with every sport, I think if you're chasing a rookie card, you're either chasing, the lowest or you're chasing the Chrome / Prizm. And with what's going on with the card world right now, people are looking for something to buy. And I think that younger crowd is the one that's the flipping and the reselling and going to Walmarts and Targets at 5 a.m. waiting in line. They're the ones chasing that Prizm. Where the Facebook crowd, we're talking 46 votes, and it's 37 for Chronicles and 9 for NASCAR. Like, that's huge, where that Facebook crowd want the Chronicles because they want more opportunities. NASCAR's getting 4 or 5 releases a year, and thankfully Chronicles is getting, I don't know what the actual number was, I forget, but say 12, 13 different brands, although they're like mini sets. But when a collector that loves NASCAR is only getting 4 options a year, and in one set they can get 12 or 13 more, I think it's definitely catering to that collector versus the flipper, and I think the collectors are the more Facebook user-friendly ones.
No, that's a great point, Jason. I think that that kind of explains it. That's a great point.
And
yeah, I'm hoping.
I'm going to cast my vote, and I'm going to say Chronicles as well. We talked at length about this before, and I was such an advocate for Chronicles. And honestly, with the NASCAR one, I wasn't as pleased as I thought I would be. Just with a couple of the sets, I was kind of like, it didn't turn out the way I thought. But I was way happier with Chronicles than I was with Prizm. And I know once you do Prizm for baseball, football, and basketball, by the time you get to racing, it's like the 4th set that looks exactly the same. So I would say Chronicles was my choice for sure for that mid-level product.
I guess Panini is, we'll see if they issue Chronicles again in 2021. I would think they would. Now, somebody who collects Chronicles in the other sports, would I expect to see every one of the subsets again? Or do they, would in the other sports, have they done some brands or done away with some brands inside of Chronicles? I don't know if I'm asking that right, like the Spectra and the Score.
No, I got you. Yeah. I'm thinking that it's like a 90-10. Like, say, let's just say for number's sake, they have 10 mini brands or mini sets or whatever you want to call it, and 9 of them stay and 1 of them changes, for whatever reason. But then they also have the new names like the Spectra, like where that's not something that you see every year anyways. So they kind of trade those in and out. So it's like a 90-10, 80-20, where they do some replacements and some switching. And I think for them with Chronicles, because it's only been a couple years, I think it's one of the things where they're trying to figure it out and kind of doing some test runs as to, this one was way better received than, this one, say Select versus Spectra, or the Score was in there for racing, So I think for Panini it's a lot of testing, and they know that, hey, there's 10, 12 brands in here. If we get one wrong, it's not a big deal. There's still 9 or 11 more to pick from.
Now, the interesting is, like for the Score brand, will they go from an 89 to like a 90, or switch over to maybe the 89 baseball design, or do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know, because I would love, I think we talked
kind of
about
like a mini,
before.
A Heritage, or what they do in Donruss.
Right, like we talked about that before. I would love to see, say, a Donruss with that same dull paper stock, the way that Topps does Heritage. Don't get me wrong, I love the Donruss now, and I love how they bring in the 87 design and the other 86s. But with it being that glossy, it doesn't catch the whole essence of what Heritage does for Topps. So I would love to see them do something along those lines and continue. And I definitely think Score is the right way to go. I mean, that's your brand that's been there since the 80s. Select wasn't. But then at the same time, there were like Score Select, so it was that premium Score that wasn't the chrome version. So anything with that nostalgia, I'm on board for. I'd like to see them get, a 90-95% grade on the rehashings versus, a 70-75% grade. I'd rather them get a lot closer, and kind of the way that Topps does. I think Topps pretty much nails it with the design, the feel, and then even bringing in some of those elements with the high number of short prints and stuff like that. Granted, we're talking 500 cards versus, 25 or 50, so a lot less room to work with for Panini. But especially for NASCAR, I don't see any way that Panini doesn't bring Chronicles back. When you only have 4 or 5 releases a year, why would you not give collectors, a better opportunity to get more of a variety?
Yeah, definitely. While you were talking, I was thinking I probably need to reach out to Tim over at Panini and see if I can get him on the show and maybe talk about the brands, at least, that we're looking at for 2021. So, because I'm assuming it's Donruss, I'm assuming it's Chronicles, Prizm, and I don't know if we get NT again. Maybe they go to Prime, but
yeah, I don't know if you've noticed, because I'm one of those that kind of goes to Walmart's, a couple days a week trying to figure out and find stuff. And a lot of NASCAR Donruss got released recently, and it was all the fat packs. So it was nice. And it was also nice that a lot of people were leaving it because it made it easy to get some. That was the one thing that people weren't grabbing. I bought 10 packs or so here and there and got a handful of relics because people just weren't touching it, which I'm not complaining about.
I did notice the release of the fat packs, and only the fat packs. And, yeah, there were some more left at my Walmart. Now, I can't remember where the retail wrapper redemption, when that expires, and will the fat pack count towards that?
That's a good question. I think if they were, I don't think if you send them in, I don't think they would decline you. But it's definitely worth a try.
So looking at the Rapper Redemption article on the Panini America blog, it was released or was posted February 19th, 2020, and it just says 2020 NASCAR Racing Retail Features exclusive Rapper Redemption. Receive a 5-card pack of the Red Mojos for every 20 retail wrappers submitted. I don't see anything that says that says 2020 NASCAR Racing Retail can be found. So I would think that the fat packs qualify. You need 20 of them, and I don't see any type of expiration. So I would think that it would be at least a year. So that would be the February 19th. So I'm going to have to look at picking some up and see, because I have not submitted any I have some. I just didn't have 20 yet, so I might have to see what I need to make 20 and to get at least one of those Red Mojo packs.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jason. And then some of the folks on Twitter did comment in the survey, and I definitely want to give them a shout-out. That Mickey C. said, man, this is a tough question about the Chronicles or Prizm, and I'm not sure which way I would lean, but I think this is a 50-50 split, so it's that close for him. And then Roy G. At Bulldog 2189 really liked the variety of Chronicles. Prizm wasn't bad, but didn't scratch the itch like Chronicles does for me. So, and then Logan agreed with that, said, well said. At Ronnie Roger Che 1, 2020 Prizm is a card chaser's paradise. Ray Tango 84, both are good. I like Chronicles for the relics. So I didn't expect that, but thank you, Ray. So it sounds like, the established nuts folks, they definitely love the Chronicles. And to your point, some of the folks on Twitter, some of the younger kids, or that Twitter brand definitely like the Prizm just a little bit more, not nearly like the split from Facebook, but it was a lot closer.
Yeah, that one was, you're talking 21 votes, and it's 57 to 42 percentage, so you're probably talking a split of 1 or 2 votes. So, yeah, definitely a lot closer than Facebook, and not really surprised. I think if you did a poll on it, maybe now that it's 21, maybe we should put up all 4 releases and see how it goes. I think that would be.
I thought about that, but usually everybody jumps all over the National Treasure stuff. I
don't think it would happen this year.
Okay.
Not from what I've seen. And talk about it if you want, because you said you opened a little bit. I don't touch National Treasures. And even if I was on the fence, I don't think this year I would. From everything that I saw in the Nuts group, it was a buy singles, not boxes/packs, whatever you want to call it. It seemed like people did not feel that they were getting their money's worth. And I'm not saying like I got $300 in cards for $400. I'm saying like people were thinking I got $100 in cards for a $400 box. So, in my opinion, it seemed like the reviews were negative. But, I don't know what expectations were either. So maybe somebody had high expectations and wasn't well educated in what that type of product was, because it can be real hit or miss, especially because it's a 4-box case. So you can get that loaded briefcase, or you can really get hosed, every once in a while. So I'll be curious if we do this poll with all 4 products. I'd really like to see where it goes.
Yeah, I will put out that poll. National Treasures, it's a $400 price point, which is a lot of money. It's cheap compared to some of the other sports, but still $400. And I think in that kind of product, it's a hit or miss. Not everyone's going to be, loaded. I did open 2 boxes, and it has, booklets in it. One booklet was a Ryan Blaney, just large patches, and it was like numbered out of 25 or something. So it was kind of like, that was the big hit, but I didn't think, it was that big. I'm not even sure why it wasn't even like, they're just 2 big black patches as opposed to maybe part of a patch or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I did have a Dale Earnhardt Jr. auto card in there, but the other one had a 101, and I know there's multiple 101s, but it was Jimmy Johnson's name, and maybe it was from his belt. But it was kind of weird where, they have a picture of Jimmy in that box. You have these 2 boxes, and his name was split, but the J was missing. So it was Han, and then Son on the second one.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that was, awesome. And that was the, bigger hit for, somebody like Jimmy Johnson. So, National Treasure is definitely like a hit or miss. So I definitely like, and I'm more of a base card, guy. I like getting cards, either sending them off to get autographed or, collecting them or maybe getting them graded or whatever. So, Dunruss is kind of my thing. I really enjoy that. It's the most cards, making sets. The one thing that stuck out to me for National Treasure, I think it's a 109 card set, and you got 1 base card per box. So that is a mammoth set. I mean, when you talk about coming out of a 4-box case, 109 boxes to make a set. So I definitely couldn't do a base set of National Treasures. So
yeah, it seems like, kind of going back to what you said with some of your hits, it seems as if, and I'm completely judging the whole NASCAR collecting community, but for the amount of products that come out a year, it seems as if Prime would be a better product to really focus on versus the National Treasures. It's weird to me that, say, there's 4 or 5 products a year, and your pack prices go from $3 to $5 to, let's just say $10 for Chronicles, and then the next one's $400. It seems that they are really missing a huge section of the collecting audience, and that's just a huge jump. So to me, it's either bring back Prime and keep National Treasures, or just bring back Prime and get rid of National Treasures. But at the same time, NT's been around for so long now, it's not something they're going to get rid of, and this is my 2 cents, of course, but it's just that huge jump from $10 a pack to $400. Seems a little crazy for a sport with such a limited amount of stuff to choose from.
Yeah,
and people seem to like the Prime patches. So I don't think I'm too far off, but
Yeah, I don't know what on the back end, Panini making it what they need to make the line successful, but they did National Treasures, I think, in 16 and 17. Then they did 2 years of Prime, and I think the price point for it was what, $200, $250.
No, Prime was $100 a box, but it was like 3 cards or something.
I think it was more cards than 3.
But it was like 3, 4, 5. Something. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't like 12 or anything like that.
Yeah. but to your point, it wasn't a $400 hit at like National Treasures, and then that hit and miss. And I guess people that are buying that, you know, they can they're looking for that. And again, we talk about NASCAR collectors are primary driver collector, so you know the box could be all over the road, and you might not get any of your driver, but you're either opening it and then hoping to get something, and then trading for somebody that you know they've opened, and then you, because NASCAR community is kind of tight. And that Nuts group is amazing, where they know who likes what, and so they'll trade back and forth, or you know if they need to add cash or not. So, but yeah, it's a product that I'm not. That's not in my wheelhouse. So, but it was fun to open. And then one of the last things I was going to talk about today was some of the prices. I know 2020 was quite interesting for trading cards, and we've seen a little bit of NASCAR accelerating a little bit, not to the likes of the other sports, but we talked last time about the 1972 STP Petty that was on eBay, and we were curious to see where it ended up. I think it ended up at a little over $1,200 for that ungraded raw card, which really kind of I was very shocked at. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it was, you know, usually I've seen them go for $120, you know, years ago, you know, all the way up to this now. So, and then the one that really caught me, that was in the beginning of November, and then in the beginning of December, there was a PSA authenticated, signed with the R Petty. I think maybe it was a 4. It went for about $1,800. You know, so some of those vintage, we've talked about it, the 1972 set and how it was distributed and stuff like that. So if you're not familiar, you can check last week or the last episode, number 30. I replayed it. But there were some also in the end of November, looks like somebody had a STP set and they were breaking it up and selling the individual cards. So the Petty, Bobby Allison, Benny Parsons, Fred Lorenzen, Dick Brooks, Dave Marcus, James Hilton. They had everything but the Fred Lorenzen kneeling next to the car. That one is out on eBay. They want like $6,000 for it. So, and more power to them if they can get it. But I don't know if it's going to move at that price. But anyway, so there's these STPs come up rarely, a few times a year. So it was cool to see that, but I totally missed them. I didn't find them until I did a completed sold search. So I didn't even see them with and I know we talked about it with our saved searches. So I was happy to see that, but disappointed I missed some of those. And then while I was checking some of those saved searches, I was like, well, let me look at the 83 Uno, the 20th anniversary of the passing of Dale Earnhardt Sr. is coming up this Daytona. But I was looking at the 83 Uno, which we've talked about before, and actually I'll replay after this segment here so you can get caught up. But there was a BGS 9.5 that went for $625, complete set raw for $475, a set with some graded cards. I think it was a 9 Petty, 9 Earnhardt Sr., and a 9 Darrell Waltrip, and that went for $700. Now, years ago, I was selling some 9.5. They were going for like $350, $375. So you can see that the Dale Earnhardt went from like that a few years ago to that $625. So that 83 Unos are a really tough set to find. So I was interested to see how the 83 Unos are doing. 83 Unos.
Now, do you think a lot of this is COVID-related, like everything else is that's going on right now with card prices and, box wax madness? Do you think this is the same boat, or is it different? NASCAR is kind of sometimes on its own island, so I'm curious what your opinion is real quick.
It might be that folks are seeing what other sports are doing, and maybe some of these NASCAR collectors are grabbing some of this while they can. I definitely don't think people realize how hard these 72 STPs and these 83 Unos are. I think only a few hundred sets were made of the 83 Uno, and then how many survived and how many graded. If you look at the pop report for some of that, there's 20 or 30, graded. So looking at the PSA pop report for the 1983 Uno, I don't think people realize how tough or how scarce they are. There's been a total of 363 cards graded for the whole set. 106 have been graded 10. When you get down to, like, the Richard Petty, only 8 10s and 29s, and that's it, so 28. There's a 7. So, the second card ever for Richard Petty, and there's only been 28 graded in 9 or 10. Dale Earnhardt, there's only 14 10s, 21 9s, and Darrell Waltrip 5 10s and 8 9s, 6 8s, only 19. So Bobby Allison's got 3 10s, 6 9s, and 4 8s. So probably the majority of those being graded are myself and Logan. I don't know if I talked about in this segment or not that we had done, but I got my hands on, I think, about 20-something sets back in the 2009, 2011, maybe, that range. I wish I still had all those. But, so the numbers are not there. It's not like the Tiger Woods or even if you went to the 1988 Max, the pop reports are for that. So going over to the Max, just for the Charlotte, there's been over 7,700 graded in that 100-card set. The 83 Uno is only 30 cards, so quite a big difference.
Yeah.
What's that?
Huge difference for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, with the 72 STP, there's not many there either. So, and then over on the 82 STP, only 85 cards have been graded for that. They're so rare to find, and then to find them graded. Hoping that that NASCAR is getting a second look. Maybe there's definitely a lot of value there. The sets aren't very big. You can find them somewhat, so you have some of that chase, but again, information is hard, and that's why we're doing the podcast, so I can tell everybody what I know. So we'll follow up here with the previously recorded segment for the 83 Uno and the 1985 SportStar Photo-Graphics. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll try to do the 1986 SportStar Photo-Graphics set, and then we'll work our way to the 88 Max and try to get a couple of these knocked out before Daytona, some of these earlier sets, let you know what I know about it. Try to get our show out a little more regular, and I'm super excited about the 2021 season.
I think we just had an off season, that's all. I don't think it's a huge deal. We had an off season, there had holidays, and we're just coming back around when the season's going to start. We're ready to go. Yeah,
well, like I said, I know everybody's abuzz at the shop, getting those cars ready for Daytona. They have another month month and a week, I guess it is, until the Daytona 500. So It's going to be really exciting to get the cars back on the track and start talking more NASCAR. And I'm assuming Dunruss will be coming out, and next couple of weeks we'll try to get some more interviews on the show. Super excited about 2021. I don't know, Jason, if you have any other thoughts for today?
It's weird because it gets to be the end of the year, end of the season, then end of the year, and now we're in January, and I saw Topps posted that their 21 baseball design, and then it made me think, well, heck, NASCAR Donruss should be coming around the same time. So it's like all of a sudden 2020 is over, and here we go with 21, and I'm ready to see some new stuff.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking and excited for the Donruss. I believe it's going to be the 1988 design in there. So that'll be interesting with the blue and stripes. I think it has like black on the corners or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that one will be exciting, and especially if they continue, the rated rookies and all of that. And, it would be, I think it would be fun to see some of the insert sets, if you want to call them, from the Donruss. Maybe they'll surprise us. I don't know. I haven't seen any sell sheets or anything for Donruss yet, so I may be just talking about nothing that's going to ever happen. But I'm excited to see it. I like when the flagships come out for any sport, so I'm definitely ready to see these as well.
Yeah, I was looking for the sell sheet. I didn't see it, but when I was talking about that design or whatever, I was thinking the same thing. It'd be nice to see some of those rated rookies and see who gets selected to be on the rated rookie as well. So it's
you know what, I'm gonna throw this out there, and if it ever happens, everybody can thank me. I would love to see the pop-ups that the 88 Donruss had, some sort of set for baseball, but they had pop-ups where like the top half of the card ended up being a cutout and the bottom was like a base. I would love to see something cool like that, but guess we'll see.
Yeah, I do kind of somewhat remember that. There actually was like a stand-up, I think it was, for NASCAR. I think it was its own separate company. I don't think it lasted very long. But, yeah, it'd be cool to see some of those pop-ups with NASCAR. That's a good idea. Yeah, it'd be cool to see some of the old inserts, and bring some of that back. So I know, there's a little bit of nostalgia with that Donruss series and, being released right there at the first week in February. So I'm expecting the sell sheet pretty soon.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me that it hasn't been out yet. Or, at least that neither of us have seen it for sure.
Yeah, sometimes, they don't release that full NASCAR schedule. Like last year they released the Donruss, but we didn't know what was going on, and found out we were getting Chronicles and Prizm, National Treasure. So, like I said, I'm going to have to reach out to Tim and see if we can get him on the show. Maybe he can give our listeners some inside info on the upcoming 2021 Panini NASCAR releases. So I'm assuming they're going to do the VIP Daytona thing again. So that's kind of a tip-off sometimes of what product it's going to be in. So
great.
All right, well, let's switch over to the 1983 Uno and 1985 SportStar Photo-Graphics. We can move into the next subject. We talked, and so we were going to talk about the 1983 Uno set. This is another one of those sets a lot of people don't know about, and it was one of those sets that wasn't even really revealed until 1991, if you believe it. There was an article that appeared in the October of 1991 Collector's World. So before Beckett, you had Racing Collectibles Price Guide that started, I believe, in December of 89, and then Collector's World started up a little after that. And there's a very interesting story where the magazine was approached by a gentleman who had these set of Uno cards. The back looks like your typical Uno playing card. I don't know if you played Uno as a kid. I know I did.
A little bit.
And then the front is a photo, a full bleed, and it's numbered to 30. So you had the 1970 Fleer drag strips, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, was just images of a driver in a car. And then the 1972 STP, when those were just giveaways, probably very limited quantities. And so you have until 1983, now you have this little 30-card set. And it wasn't really a mass giveaway. It wasn't like giving away at one track, or like if you had a baseball game where they gave away some kind of special set. They talk about in the article is that they went and tried to approach Uno and find information about it. And, of course, Uno didn't even know anything about it. The article mentions that.
So let me stop you right there real quick.
Go ahead.
To me, it is amazing. In the job that I have now, and even in some of the previous jobs that weren't card-related, I always tried to keep track of stuff, the dates for things, and then even in more hobby-related things, you know, when promos run or, you know, like the tops and the chips, you know, when did that start? How long did it run? What's the checklist? It amazes me that these companies don't keep track or keep better track of a lot of the promotions, or keep, you know, not like one of everything, but keep their own for, you know, maybe they want to use it later. Maybe they want to make a history book, or maybe they want to, you know, all this. It always amazes me that some of the companies that are just like, yeah, we have no record of this, or we have no idea what you're talking about. And that in the article, what Uno had said, just shocked me.
So I can understand, you know, what you're saying, but then you have to look at, you know, the early 1980s, right? This is really before computers, personal computers anyway. And then when you get into racing, I can definitely see where you have the company Uno, and they're producing the playing cards and the games and all that manufacturing, but they weren't involved in producing this set. This was probably some kind of side deal where, you know, they have some kind of money set aside for advertising and racing, and somebody probably said to somebody, hey, you know, it'd be good to have maybe some cards at one of these tracks or at a couple of these events. I've been to, you know, a couple of races with some sponsored events, and, you know, they have a little hospitality tent, and maybe they have some giveaways and stuff like that. But I don't think, you know, the higher up corporates would have any record of that. That's what makes these so intriguing, the fact that nobody knows anything about them. We have this article that was in this magazine, but otherwise than that, these magazines are out of print now. I do have some of the early issues scanned in on my site at racingcardinfo.com, and then there's like an archives, and so you can read these articles and see the prices and the advertisements and stuff. So, you know, all this stuff is just forgotten, and that's one other reason why I want to do the podcast, is just to get this information out. So I just think it's really cool that this was some kind of side deal, and, you know, kind of like the 72 SCP, Grant and Telly getting together with Ray Mann, and they make it happen.
Right.
And it gets done, and there's no recollection. So this is kind of like the same thing. And it's going back to, I don't know, I'm thinking of like the 32 Caramels, or maybe Allen and Ginter or whatever. You know, they decided, hey, let's put baseball cards in tobacco packs. And, you know, people didn't know about the different backs, how that all happened. It just, you know, just happened, and nobody had the vision to document it in this kind of stuff. But it kind of adds the intrigue about it and the lore of it. So the article mentions they tried to contact the home office, and they didn't even know anything about it. And that because the stuff, I guess, wasn't on computers or whatever, they had no information about it. They would have to dig through and look at all the expenses and receipts and bills and stuff, and they weren't going to do that for this. So basically, the article goes on to talk about the pictures on the front of the cards, and it looks like the last photos, or the most recent photos, were of Lake Speed, and which was around February of '83. So it was probably produced right after the Daytona 500 in '83. So the cards were not produced for sale to the public, nor they were intended as inserts into the game or anything like that. and the regular Uno card games were printed and packaged in Belgium, and that it was too costly to print materials there, promo materials there. Now, I do know from my research and my pursuit of these that these were, because I got my hands on an uncut sheet. Where's my article here? That they were produced someplace, I think in Illinois. They were printed by T&E Lithoplate Incorporated of Detroit, Michigan. I was wrong. So that company is still in business.
It would be interesting. Well, first let me ask the question and maybe the follow-up. So the date or the time frame has kind of been figured out. Has the print run ever been narrowed down?
So the article mentions that the gentleman who showed him the full sets has a few hundred sets that he packed away, along with numerous other items accumulated over the years, and that he actually offers them for sale in the magazine. The name of the company is called Gold Cards, and they were selling them for $200 a set, and this is 1991 money. And then later I did a business search, and that Gold Cards is really David Chobat. And David Chobat was an award-winning NASCAR photographer, and he passed away in August of 2004. And in the summer of 2006, his estate actually started selling some of these sets on cut sheets. And then they had his images on the site, and they were saying he had over 3.5 million photographs, and that you could kind of like Getty Images, you could kind of, I guess, buy them and or get the rights to them or whatever it was. So there's not thousands or hundreds of thousands. These are probably hundreds, and we're talking, in between 83 to whatever, how much actually survived. Now, there were some sets that started to re-hit the market in 2006 that I'm very familiar with, because in the summer of 2006, I saw those uncut sheets start to come up on eBay. I wasn't able to get any of them, but I did take some screenshots of them, and there's probably about 15 of them. And then all of a sudden, they weren't selling them, and I think I had contacted them, asking if they were going to list anymore, and I never heard anything back. And then so many months passed, and then there was a new seller of these cards, and they were individual cards. I didn't know if they had cut them up or what, but turns out that they had, I guess, purchased the remaining cards and uncut sheets, and then he started to sell them for a little bit of time. That's where I kind of started picking up my 83 Uno cards. And then once I got the complete set, I was kind of done, and then I really didn't pay much attention to it. But I was contacted by the gentleman, and I did end up picking up some more sets over the time. But the 83 Uno, like I said, is a 30-card set. It's, there's a majority of the cards in it represent Uno drivers. Tim Richmond was one of them. He has the most, with 13 of 30 being Tim Richmond. Buddy Baker was also an Uno driver. He has 6 cards. Kyle Petty's in this. He has 3 cards. And I guess the reason Tim Richmond has so many is that I had read his book, or a book that was about Tim Richmond, and that Bob Tazak, I think that's his name, he purchased the Uno card game, and he knew Tim, and he sponsored Tim Richmond in the 1980 Indy 500. That's where Tim Richmond, he came in 9th, and he was named the 1980 Indianapolis 500 Rookie of the Year. Not to get off too much of a tangent, but then Tim Richmond had some accidents, and his mother threatened his father to get him out of the open wheel, and that's why Tim Richmond went into the stock car racing. And so Uno continued to sponsor him in his NASCAR career. So in this 83 set, like I said, he's got 13 of those 30 cards. And what's really interesting about this set is that it's the first cards of Darrell Waltrip is in it, and Dale Earnhardt Sr., which I think is probably the key. Richard Petty's also in it, and Bobby Allison. So it's a really great little set. Like I said, I think it's really undervalued. Of course, it doesn't come up that much on eBay. You're talking, I don't know who would he be equivalent to in baseball, Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Darrell Waltrip. It's like a Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, or...
Yeah, possibly. I mean, that definitely for Earnhardt. So I have a few questions, and I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know if I did that, if I did it justice or not, but I guess it helped me fill in the holes I made.
So the print run, we don't really know, which granted we're talking in the 80s, so that was before the boom in the 90s. So I would imagine the print run is, like you said, on the low end. I'd be curious, with this lithoplate company still in business, if anybody's ever reached out to them to see if they had any records of how much they printed. Granted, we're talking almost 40 years later, but I'd be curious to see if anybody's ever attempted to reach out just to see if, if they still have a receipt copy or an invoice or, whatever, to see what was printed or to get the amount.
Yeah, I thought about it, and I was like, well, yeah, having that phone conversation, right? Yeah, well, I got uncut sheet.
Yeah, that's definitely an email.
From 1983, and do you know how many guys printed? They'd be like, what?
You know what? The worst they're going to tell you is no. Maybe you get the right person, and they say, oh, yeah, I just happened to stumble across that invoice the other day. But it'd be interesting. It's something, it's happened. I have not Beckett's, but like those other sports price guide magazines from the early 90s. And there was a company that was still active that had an ad in there for a VHS of how to collect baseball cards. And there was a baseball player that was featured athlete in it from the 70s or 80s. And I cannot remember who it was, but that's beside the point. I actually reached out to the company and said, hey, do you guys still sell these by any chance? And they said, well, we don't, but we can make you a DVD copy if you want. When we're talking, that was a 20-year-old magazine. So, it's still possible that these things can be found out. Like I said, maybe you or I will have to reach out to this company and see if they have any information. Yeah,
it would be cool to kind of follow up on it. That's part of the fun for me with some of this stuff. And like I said, some of it is from the magazine, and the other is some of my things that I've learned over the years and kind of piecing puzzles together with reading Tim Richmond's book and having purchased a decent number of sets. And so even then, back in 2006, I think the guy that I had gotten some stuff said he had estimated he got about 40 or 50 sets. And then, that's been over 13 years ago, I guess it is now. And it's all kind of been absorbed into the hobby. I know the Dale Earnhardt Sr. is on almost everybody's wish list, at least an Earnhardt Sr. collector. I always see that when people saying they're on their want list. And then with Darrell Waltrip getting to the Hall of Fame.
Right. So another question. You said you took screenshots of the uncut sheets. Do you remember how many cards were on a sheet? I mean, considering it's a 30-card set, and I think I've seen other companies do like 100-card sheets, so like a 10x10. So 100 cards, that could be 3 1/3 sets. I'm kind of curious if you remember any specifics about the uncut sheets, and maybe are there sheets with 3 Dale Seniors and sheets with 1, or were they all kind of the same?
So I have 2 uncut sheets. One sheet has been trimmed around the side so you can't see the print information and the print alignment. So I have one with all that and one without it. There are 30 cards on the sheet, so it's the whole set, 1 to 30 actually, and the print lines or the cut lines, I guess. So that's one thing is, so the cards are not your normal size. They're 2 3/16 by 2 3/16 by 3 7/16. Those are the individual card dimensions, and I got that off of the cut lines from the uncut sheet. So I think I had told you before we got on that I have some of these graded, and some of the ones, the early ones that were sold or that I got were larger, and PSA graded them. They didn't know what the right size was. So in all my years of collecting and stuff like that, I contacted PSA and actually sent them a printed copy of an uncut sheet because I wanted to, because I liked the sheet and use it as kind of as a poster. And if you got to my racing card info, like my banner is an image of that uncut sheet.
So one set per sheet. Just curiosity, were they in order?
Yes.
Okay.
They
so
are
if
from
you did
1
have
to
one,
30.
it would, be a nice little display.
Yes, and I think the one sheet that I got that's trimmed, or I would say that the print information around it is gone, and it was probably in the frame. So in the card set, there are images of maybe the driver with the car or in the car. Like the Lake Speed just kind of shows the two cars. The Neil Bonnet shows him in victory circle. Like I said, there's a bunch with Tim Richmond next to the car. There's some different shots of the Uno cars until you get up. There, like I said, with Buddy Baker and Kyle Petty in the 42 and the number 1 car. There's Lake Speed 2 kneeling next to the car, but you can see where the Uno is on the rear quarter panel of the car. And then when you start getting up into the higher numbers, around 19, there's some more portraits as Kyle Petty and Buddy Baker, Tim Richmond, and then Richard Petty, number 23. Richard Petty with 2 lovely admirers. There's some more portraits of Tim Richmond. The Dale Earnhardt is number 27. Dale Earnhardt wins Daytona qualifier, and he's in, looks like, victory circle before for that qualifier race. And then Darrell Waltrip wins the Daytona qualifier. That's number 28. And then Bobby Allison's number 29. He wins the Daytona qualifier. So it's pretty interesting. So on some of these cards, there's the same. There's one younger kid. He's in a bunch of the photos. He must have been part of Uno or something, or somebody's kid, because he's in that photo with Darrell Waltrip and then the photo with Bobby Allison.
Okay, so I have two more things, and then we can wrap it up. Just a statement. For whatever reason, this set reminds me of Pro Set. I know it's the Uno, and of course they have the card backs, but the front of these definitely remind me of the Pro Set cards of the 90s, which I always liked those designs for the most part. But yeah, it definitely reminds me of that. And in the article, it says that they were selling for $200 when was that they had them for sale in the 90s?
91.
October. Yeah, 91. So what do you think a complete set would sell for now?
I've seen a couple sell, I don't say a couple, maybe 1 or 2 sell in the last year. I guess it was about maybe $300 to $400. I don't know if they were trying to get $399. These were ungraded, I think.
Because I know
there are.
Go ahead. Because I was just going to say, I know that Earnhardt graded sells for $150, $200. But yeah, if the set's $400, I mean that's a pretty substantial price for a racing set. When we talk about card prices all the time being so low, $400 for a set of 30 cards, a $10 or $12 average per card. That's a pretty nice set to have.
Yeah, I think the keys definitely are the Richard Petty, because that's the second Richard Petty card, the Dale Earnhardt Sr. rookie, Darrell Waltrip rookie, and then the second of Bobby Allison. The Tim Richmonds are really cool. He kind of he had burst on the scene, or if you ever seen Days of Thunder, it's kind of around him. Not to get too much off on a tangent, but he basically, when he finally hooked up with Harry Hyde at Hendrick, there was just this chemistry between them, and as you saw, like in Days of Thunder, and then he got very sick with AIDS and passed away in 1989. But he was pretty much done. I think it was 87. He had a couple, and then that was it. But he was just getting his 86 season was just incredible, and then it was over. So the Tim Richmonds are early his first cards, and pretty much he has stuff in the 86 SportStar Photo-Graphics, but that's it. And then how much we can talk about? So I mentioned the 1980 Indy 500 that Tim Rich was in. I know we were talking about the Uno set, but there's an Avalon Hill set. There was an Avalon Hill game that was the Indy 500, and you had the game that was the Indy, and they included cards. I don't remember the size. Maybe they were like 2.5 by 2.5. But the 1980 edition has a Tim Richmond in it. And
okay,
so there are sets. Yeah, that's a really cool set. We can talk about that some more one day. But I think they started in '79, and I think they ended sometime in the early '80s. But you have AJ Foyt and all those other ones
great Indy drivers. Maybe when we talk to Ken, we can talk about the Avalon Hill. I wonder if he knows about those.
Yeah,
that was one of those other ones that I found by looking at the Beckett price guide and realizing that Tim Richmond was in there and searching for. So, but the 83 set I think is a great set. It's a tough set to find. It doesn't have the print run that all the other from 88 on, the major mass-produced stuff. So part of it is just trying to find it, let alone the price. So, well, I hope that was informative. Hope everybody learned something. We can continue on next week and talk about the 1985 SportStar Photo-Graphics stickers. That was kind of an interesting, as we'll find in these next couple of sets, information is really hard to find, and we have to kind of guess at where they came from and why they were produced. So, our last episode, we talked about the 83 Unos, and I had mentioned the next. So we talked about the 1970 Fleer drag strips as one of the first ones, the 1972 SCP, the 1983 Uno, and then in 1985, SportStar Photo-Graphics stickers were produced. They might have been produced late 84, but 95, and they were produced by Ray Mann, who you might remember from the 1972 STP, working with Andy Granatelli. And Ray Mann had the Racing Pictorial magazine. I think it was a quarterly magazine that came out with color portraits. And he produced these placemats, and I think this is what he made a collectible placemat. I guess he thought for the guy who had everything, he could have, while he sat down to eat, he could have, I think it was 11 by 17 laminated photo, I don't know if it's photo paper, but a nice graphic image of the driver and the car, and then the back had information on it. And that some people think that the stickers were used as an incentive. Maybe if you bought so many placemats, you got the stickers. And the stickers are kind of mini versions of what the placemats look like. Have you ever seen any of these?
They look familiar. I don't think I ever realized, definitely didn't realize about the placemat part, but I know I've seen them. Just never knew exactly what they were.
And they measure about 2 by 3 inches. And one of the interesting, and I kind of classify them as racing. The checklist has got Bobby Allison, Mario Andretti. He is more known for Indy, but he drove in NASCAR. A.J. Foyt, same. David Pearson, Richard Petty, Al Unser Sr., Darrell Waltrip, and Cale Yarborough. That makes up the list. Now, there's a really interesting variation, or error if you want to call it, of David Pearson. They misspelled his name, his first name, produced a sticker of it. So they're kind of tough to find, and I know we talk about the NASCAR. When you talk about these early NASCAR stuff, everything before 88 Max kind of took it to the next level, and that had your mass print run. So all these before 1988 are very low print runs and are tough to find. And one of the ones that's like super rare is the Darrell Waltrip. I don't know why, but I had a hard time trying to find one of those. And I want to say the Bobby Allison might not be listed in the Beckett guide, but it's a nice little set, like I said, of stickers. And I'm always a sucker for a mini, so it was right in my wheelhouse.
So I want to ask a couple of questions here that you brought up. Looking at the information that you sent me, it says some people believe that these cards were a test issue with only 1,000 of each being made. Does that include the error and the corrected for the Pearson? So would that be 1,000 of each or 1,000 total, assuming that speculation is correct? Do you think the same print run for both?
I'm not sure. I can't remember where I got that information from. Probably through all the years of looking for information. I did see somebody had placed had an auction, and they had one that's not on this list. And I don't know where it came from, but it looked legit. Again, all this information is super sketchy. But like I said, if you go out on eBay and you look, they are they are tough to find. Usually, maybe you might find a complete set. Sometimes you find the petty, and I've acquired them, and they're condition sensitive, where the edges are jagged because they're on that sticker paper, I guess you would say. So they're not, right. I was going to say that they're not a professional print run, but it was a professional print run. I don't think, they weren't looking when they were making these for people to, collect them as a collectible like a card. I think, they were little stickers to put on your car or whatever it is, or maybe your book or something. Again, I think it's kind of interesting with Ray Mann. The year after this, he did a bigger card, and his main focus was the placemats. So these are kind of the afterthought.
And so the other thing was, you mentioned that Waltrip was a hard one to find. Any reason or any thought to that? Is it regional, or were they all put out together? Or any thoughts on that?
So when I say with the placemats, it was, I can't remember if he had advertisements in his magazine. He might have. Okay. But I would imagine he would have been at all the tracks, or had vendor at the track selling at the track. So they would have been run primarily through the South back at that time, the NASCAR schedule. And it could have been legal. Darrell Waltrip was hot that time. Okay. And it might have been something like that. I am not sure. I just know it was very, very tough to find the Waltrip. But I'm trying to remember. I think it took me a few years to find one of those.
And I'm looking on eBay, and there are two listings. One's for the AJ Foyt, and one's for the Yarborough. And they're $12, $15 a piece. Is that a typical price, or are some of the other ones a little bit more expensive, a little bit cheaper? What have you seen as far as the price history of these?
I think that's kind of in line, less than 20 or 10 a piece. They kind of go, in spurts, where somebody might find a group of them and then put them out there and then trying to blow through them, I guess you would say. But but they're not, a large amount of money. I think Darrell Waltrip I might have picked up for $30 or $40 maybe at the time, because I hadn't seen it. I'm looking at eBay. There was an auction that closed. It was 8 of the cards, so it was the Andretti, Unser, Petty, Yarborough. Looks like the David Pearson wrong version. Yeah, it does not have the Waltrip. Like I said, it was tougher. So that was $33 for those. And again, with some of the stuff, you're not looking at condition. You're just, most of the racing collectibles folks are just looking to have it as little as, right. Maybe pass it up, because like with the Waltrip, I was just wanting it. And some of the ones I think are the ones I had are not super pristine. I have not had them graded. So as I've said before, I won't shy away from getting something autographed. So I got a set autographed from all the drivers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the Andretti I actually sent through the mail. That takes about a year. I think it takes a year for that one. And the Unser, I got it at Indy one time. I think I might have sent the AJ Foyt off as well. And then David Pearson was at the Hall of Fame. I had gotten him back then. So that is a set. Like I said, it won't break the bank. It's not a ton of cards. It's not a 100-card set or anything like that. It's just, the 8 or 9, depending on if you want to go after the old versions of the Pearson. But and it's not a crazy, millions of them out there. They pop up every now and then, and it's a fun little set. So these early NASCAR sets are all pretty small, between the STP, the Uno, and now the 85 SportStar Photo-Graphics. So
this stuff is always way more interesting to me, because, when you're talking, say, Prizm, for example, like, yeah, the cards are there and the autographs are there, but, everybody knows everything about it. It seems like on the day it's released. And a product like this, we're talking about, 35, 40 years later, and we still don't know everything. it's kind of amazing to me that, you know, the limited amount of information on these sets, you know, 40 years later, but this is the kind of stuff that I get a little bit more enjoyment out of, just because it's a little mystery. And, you know, I realize that not everybody's collecting 85 SportStar, you know, racing cards, but it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, I had a blast, and that's why we're, you know, doing the podcast. This is the only place in the world, the only podcast in the world that's got information on this, and it's stuff that I've learned over the last, I guess it was 2005 I started, so it's been 14 years, wow, of reading everything I can read from old Collector's World or racing collectibles price guides or magazine articles or price guide articles. It was a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun trying to search for these things, and without breaking the bank, it's more about the collectible part of it, the chase, the stuff, you know, like if you're trying to build an older set. I think that's kind of the enjoyment of the hobby. I know, you know, there's different folks. The newer folks want to get the rainbows and all this other stuff. It's, you know, part of the mystery and the history behind it, and it's really cool. I like it. I guess if you collect it on a budget, this is definitely a set to look at that is not run-of-the-mill, and it's got all, you know, superstars in it. So
before I forget, I actually wanted to bring something up today, and you kind of mentioned part of it already with Mario Andretti. So we talked in one of the episodes before about going through the mail a little bit, and that Petty was a really good one and Andretti was a good one, but there was a wait. So I sent, because at the time I couldn't find anything, I sent 2 index cards to Richard Petty to get signed. I got those back within a week or two. It was pretty quick. They were both signed and returned. And I want to say it was maybe around the Hall of Fame, because I remember you saying he was going to be in town, and it would I'd get him back that week or something like that, and I did. So that's a month or two, but I hadn't talked about it yet. And then let me say about Andretti, then I'll let you say what you want to say. So Andretti, you actually said it was going to be a year, and I actually got mine back within about 2 months.
Wow.
So I got, same thing with him. I didn't have anything to send that I could find. So I sent 2 index cards, and he actually did not sign the index cards. He sent 2 their blue Kmart cards. I figure you probably, they look like 87 Fleer.
Yeah, I think that was one of the issues he has, yeah.
On the back it says 1991. I mean, it definitely looks like an older card. But like I said, blue, looks like 87 Fleer. Maybe I'll post a picture of it up. But he actually sent 2 of those to me signed, like I said, within about 2 months. So I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think I remember what that Andretti looks like. Back in the early 90s, just like with baseball, everybody was making a set. Everybody was, you know, Indy was making stuff, and NASCAR, and I remember in baseball you had the unauthorized stuff, and it was crazy. Anything. So, you know, with Andretti being Andretti, I think I don't know if he was still racing or not, but I can kind of see that card in my mind here. And Andretti's got a nice autograph, and then Richard Petty. So before we talk about Petty autograph, what I was saying in May, before the Coke 600, the teams have fan days, and they're there to sign. And I think Richard's really good about signing, and I kind of knew they have a Petty Fest or something like that they call it, and he'd be there to sign. So, but he has an amazing autograph. To be the pinnacle, the Babe Ruth of racing, with 7 championships and 200 wins, and then we talked about Pearson. He's got 105, I think, as number 2, so 94 more wins, and then, you know, his autograph is just a work of art.
Yeah, actually, I think we did talk about it already a while ago, but it seems like it had never changed.
Yeah, he had, for a stint there in the 80s, it was R. Petty,
okay.
and then he changed it back. I see online, I see some autographs. So if you see an autograph that looks like the current one, but it's just R. Petty, you know, you're looking for the loops and stuff, then it's kind of the real deal. So he's just signed so much stuff.
Well, that was the 1983 Uno and 1985 SportStar Photo-Graphics segment. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Jason, as well. And any parting words? Well, for me and Jason, thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will catch you next week.